Sup guys, it's Alex here, and today I have my 5th Bracketology update video. This is for February 27th right there. There's been a pretty big change in the Bracketology so far. Gonzaga lost for the first time, so they moved back down to the West as the last number 1 overall seed. Kentucky moves up to a 2 seed after beating a 3rd seed Florida, and that drops Arizona down to the 3 seed after beating UCLA, after losing to UCLA, who has now moved up to a 3 seed. And that also dropped Butler down to a 4 seed after struggling with Xavier on Sunday night. And so, as always, I created my own little bracket thing on Bracketify.com. The link for this will, as always, be in the description. So let's go ahead and get it started. It's called February 27th Bracketology. And I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for voting in the Bracketology little bracket things on Bracketify.com, because you guys have made my last Bracketology video, the February 23rd one, the most voted on bracket on the site. And out of my 4 brackets so far, they're all in the top 5 on the site. February 20th is about to take over the 2nd spot. So I just want to say thank you guys for voting again. So let's go ahead and get into the Bracketology things. And as always, I'm just going to pick who I think is going to win. I'm going to go in depth more whenever the actual brackets themselves come out. So I have number 1 Kansas beating NC Central right there, the 1 seed beating the 16 seed. Then I have number 9, Michigan State, actually beating Wichita State. Wichita State won like 9 or 10 games in a row, but Michigan State's been impressing me with their performance after the injury to Aaron Harris, their point guard. Then I think the winner of Vanderbilt and Providence, the 12 seed, is going to meet the number 5 SMU. Duke is going to beat Princeton. Then I'll just go ahead and do the matchup stuff. That'll be a lot easier for you guys to see. I'll have number 6, Oklahoma State beating number 11, whoever wins the Marquette-Seton Hall game. And then I'll have the number 3 seed Arizona beating number 14 Winthrop. Sorry, it's gone a little bit slow. I'm using my laptop right now. Then I have the number 7 seed Minnesota beating the 10 seed Virginia Tech. Minnesota's won like 6 or 7 games in a row at this point. Number 2 Kentucky coming in hot after beating Florida. Then I have Gonzaga beating North Dakota. Then Miami, Florida not upsetting, but beating number 9 Xavier. Then also have the 5 Cincinnati beating Nevada. 4 Purdue beating East Tennessee State, though East Tennessee State's been pretty good recently. Then I also have Creighton beating USC. I know Creighton's been struggling recently, but I just can't get behind this USC team. Then I have number 3 Florida State beating Akron. Then number 10 Syracuse beating 7 Maryland. That's the upset in this side of the bracket. Then I also have number 2 Oregon beating Cal State Bakersfield. Then I also have Villanova beating the 16 seed as always. Dayton beating Arkansas. I think this is the first bracket that I've actually had Dayton winning. Then the 5 seed Virginia beating the 12 seed UNC Wilmington. 4 seed West Virginia beating Vermont. Then I have number 11 California upsetting Wisconsin. California almost beat Oregon over this past week, and then Wisconsin's been losing games like crazy recently. They just lost to Michigan State yesterday, I do believe. And then the 3 seed Florida beating the number 14 Belmont, though that can be a popular upset pick there. And then I have number 7 Iowa State, fresh off a victory over the 2 seed Baylor, beating the 10 seed Middle Tennessee. 2 seed Louisville beating the 15 Florida Gulf Coast. And then I have number 1 North Carolina beating the 16 New Orleans. Then Michigan beating VCU. Michigan's been doing pretty good recently. They just beat Purdue and have been winning like crazy too. Then the 5 seed Notre Dame beating the 12 seed UT Arlington. Then the 4 seed Butler beating the 13 seed Monmouth. Then I have Illinois State beating St. Mary's. I think this is the first bracket that Illinois State has actually been in the Bracketology so far. Then I have the 3 seed UCLA beating the 14 Bucknell. Then I have Northwestern, even though they just lost to Indiana, beating South Carolina. And then the 2 seed Baylor beating the 15 seed South Dakota. And then for a berth in the Sweet 16, moving on, Michigan State. Somebody picked Michigan State to beat Kansas. That's a pretty big surprise there, but I'm going to have to go with Kansas right there, the number 1 overall seed. Then we got Duke beating the winner of Vanderbilt and Providence. Then I actually have Oklahoma State beating Arizona. I think they're going to pull off the upset there. Then Kentucky beating Minnesota. Then I also have, in a pretty big upset here, the 8 seed Miami, Florida beating Gonzaga. I know Gonzaga's doing pretty good. They've only lost 1 game so far this season. But Miami can beat those top teams. They've proved it by beating Duke and a couple other teams like Florida. I think they beat Florida State. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think they have. And then I have Purdue beating Cincinnati. Cincinnati just lost to UCF, even though Purdue just lost to Michigan. I think Purdue's going to come out on top there. And then I have 3 Florida State beating the 6 seed Creighton. Then I have, I want to pick Syracuse to upset Oregon there, but I think I'm going to have to go with Oregon there. Somebody else picked Syracuse to upset Oregon. Then the 1 seed Villanova beating the 8 seed Dayton. Then I have West Virginia pulling out the victory against Virginia. Then I have Florida beating California. Actually, I want to pick. I think Iowa State can be a sleeper team and upset 2 seed Louisville, but Louisville has just been too good. They have the best strength of schedule in all of Division I, and they've been riding pretty hot recently. Then I want to pick. I think I might go with. I don't know. That'd be a pretty crazy game. That could also be another upset pick right there with Michigan beating North Carolina. But I'm gonna have to go with North Carolina on this one. They've been too consistent all season. They're in the top of their conference. Then I think Butler's gonna beat. I agree with whoever's voted there. They're gonna beat Notre Dame. And then UCLA is gonna beat the 11 seed Illinois State Redbirds. Then Baylor is gonna beat Northwestern. If it had been Syracuse and Baylor, I would have picked Syracuse. And then moving on, and to move on to the Elite Eight, we have Duke and Kansas. I'm going to have to go with Duke winning that one, even though they just lost this weekend. Then Kentucky beating the 6th seed Oklahoma State. Then Miami, Florida upsetting Purdue to move on to the Elite Eight. And then we have Oregon moving on, beating Florida State. Villanova beating West Virginia. And then Louisville beating Florida. I think I've had Louisville in the Elite Eight in all of them so far. The North Carolina and Butler. I think Butler could win that game. They beat Villanova a couple days, or I think about a week ago. But then I think North Carolina is going to go ahead and beat them. And then we have, I guess I didn't press vote there. And then moving on past that, we will have 3 UCLA and 2 Baylor. I think UCLA is going to win that one. And then for a spot in the Final Four, I think Kentucky, they're on like a 6-game win streak. They just beat Florida by 10 without De'Aaron Fox, their star point guard. So I'm going to go with Kentucky. I really want to put Miami, Florida, continue their Cinderella run into the Final Four, but I think Oregon's going to move on there. Then I'm going to put Louisville in the Final Four too, another 2 seeds. I have 3 2 seeds. And then as much as I want to put UCLA in there, they're playing great recently. They just beat Arizona at Arizona. I think I'm going to have to go with North Carolina. I got to have a 1 seed in there. North Carolina has been pretty consistent all season long. Then for a spot in the championship game, Kentucky and Oregon. I think Kentucky's turning it on. Oregon's been struggling recently. They just barely beat California. They just barely beat Stanford this past week, and I think both games were decided by 2 points. Then Louisville and North Carolina. North Carolina just beat Louisville at North Carolina, but it was a pretty close game. So on a neutral floor, I think Louisville could beat North Carolina. So that would set up a dream matchup in the championship game, Kentucky and Louisville, the big rivals. I'm going to have to go with Kentucky winning that, even though Louisville won earlier this season, but that was at Louisville. I think on a neutral court with everybody healthy, I think Kentucky will win. So I just want to say thank you guys for watching. I'm going to have to go with Kentucky, the 2 seed, as my winner. I'll go ahead and put the link in the bio so you guys can, or the description so you guys can vote. Thank you guys for voting on all my other ones, and I shall see you guys later. Make sure to leave a comment on what you think, and I shall see you guys in the next Bracketology update.